It's about to start, we'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound, check. Camera, check. Lights, check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hello, my name is Leonard Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is two features for the Automixer. If you have just arrived, what we are doing on this series of streams is to develop a library as well as a bunch of plugins for real-time processing of audio. We are using the JSFX language, that is a language that you can use in REAPER. And we are now developing an Automixer, which is a plugin that helps you mix automatically a bunch of microphones in a room, in case you have some sort of interview or round table, something like that. The two features that we are going to implement today are Lookahead. So you are going to preview some audio from the future to consider by how much to attenuate any given microphone that you're mixing. And we are going to introduce the notion of groups. So you could have multiple Automixer groups. Perhaps you have a bunch of people in one room with 5 microphones open. And then you have 5 people in another room. You could auto-mix these groups separately. And these two features have nothing to do with one another. It's just that both of them seem relatively straightforward, so I think I can tackle both of them in one session. Let's give it a go. For the Lookahead, this is a setting that I want to be global. I want all instances to share the same Lookahead. So I will add... I'm sure I will regret having said that it's a relatively straightforward and I can knock both of these features down in one session. It's gonna come back and bite me. And Ben is here. Hello, Ben. Great to see you here. All right. The Lookahead will be given to me by the user in milliseconds. But I know that I want to compute it, to work with it in terms of samples. So I'm already going to suffix the variable name with milliseconds. By default, no Lookahead. The minimum Lookahead is 0. At most, I think that 500 milliseconds of Lookahead is probably more than enough. I'm gonna go with a full second. A full second of Lookahead in steps of 1 millisecond. Is it worth doing anything more granular than that? I don't think so. Let's look at the ranges I used in my previous implementation of the Automixer. Oh, okay, almost the same. I'll just change it this time. Whatever. Then the label will look like this. And I will skip one slider. I want this group to be separate from this group of sliders. And both of these sliders are global, so they are already syncing across plugin instances. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the same treatment to the Lookahead slider. When you move it around, you want it to write to the global namespace like that. And also you will want to set a look ahead in samples. And this is the one we are actually going to use when doing computation with Lookahead further below. Now let's move to this part where we sync. So this is when you move the slider in one plugin, it's going to write that data to the global namespace. And then here we will read from that global namespace and set our local slider on the plugin. And that's how we are syncing these so-called global sliders. Let's see if the sliders are in sync, and then we will actually use the slider to implement Lookahead. But before, let me say hello to Bo and to Tail. Hello you all, thanks for joining me. It's great to have you. To test, of course, I will simply drop 2 instances of the Automixer, move the slider in one, and see it change in the other. And that's how you do globally synced sliders. I wonder if this is not robust enough, because if you have some automation going on, you would be moving this slider fast. And in that case, it could happen that 2 instances of the plugin get to this line, and then 2 instances of the plugin get to this line, but they don't agree on the Lookahead. And all of that happens before they have a chance to sync up. So you would end up with 2 instances having 2 different notions of the Lookahead and a race condition. But who is going to automate the Lookahead with a sine wave? No one is going to do that. Let's not worry about it. I cannot help myself. I'll leave myself a to-do. Okay, simple enough. That's how we create a slider that is globally synced. At this point, very familiar code because we have written similar snippets in previous streams. Now let's actually use this Lookahead. Well, first of all, I want to declare the latency. So I'm going to, I guess, start at the end where I declare the latency. I'm going to do that because it's relatively straightforward to do. We kind of talked about this yesterday, we touched on this, and now let's actually do it. Under special variables, here it is, delay compensation. Brief explainer for people who have no idea what this is about. The plugin needs to look ahead in the future and compute the loudness of the microphones in the near future to determine the gain that will be allocated to each microphone when doing the auto mixing. To look into the future, well, it's hard, but what you can do is remember the recent past and just delay the playback. And that's what this is about. We are going to have the detector. There are two parts to the Automixer. Oh, it still fits in one screen. Isn't that nice? So this is the detector. It is computing RMS, determining how much to attenuate the tracks by. This is the gain reduction for real. We want the detector to still run with the latest sample. That doesn't change. But we want to delay the playback. So we need to report this latency to REAPER so that REAPER can sync things up. It can notice, oh, this plugin is introducing 100 samples of latency. Let me delay all the other plugins by 100 samples, and then they will be in sync. So that's what this is about. And to make this work, you have to set 3 variables. PDC delay, PDC bottom channel, PDC top channel, where PDC stands for plugin delay compensation. And I will just copy these 3 variables. And I prefer to think of it like this, in this order. The bottom channel is, in this case, always channel 0. We are delaying every channel. The top channel is the number of channels. This is inclusive, this is not. So in other words, these 2 lines say, I am delaying all the channels I have access to. All the audio that is coming through, I'm delaying all of it. And that's what the plugin is currently doing anyway. It's affecting all the tracks, sorry, all the channels. And as for the amount, it's that. It's the amount of Lookahead. How many samples am I delaying by? By this much. And on the block section over here, I have to remember to do the same. I don't need to redeclare these 2. They're still valid. They're not going to change. But this is going to change if the Lookahead has changed. So that's that. Of course, we are still not delaying the audio for real. The audio that we are going to hear is not delayed because we are still playing back samples as they come in. But at least now REAPER will know about the delay and it will compensate for that. And we'll see that in action in a moment. But first, okay, people were doing good. Awesome. Let me read this real quick because I may be misremembering something. The current delay added by the plugin in samples, note that you shouldn't change this too often. And we are not. We are checking that we need to change before we change. And this doesn't run often anyway. Well, if you are doing automation, this is going to change often. So perhaps we should check something similar to this even before this line. I guess we can. We might as well, right? No, I won't. I won't. Because there may be some race conditions that would make this code not run and then the latency would be wrong. I will not worry about this right now. This specifies the amount of delay that should be compensated. However, you need to set the bottom and top channels below to tell JSFX which channels should be compensated. And that's in case you have something like a compressor where you would like to delay the audio but not delay the sidechain, because the sidechain may be used further down. I think that that's why this exists. I am doing good. Thanks for asking. I'm still enjoying the scooter a whole lot. The weather is very nice and warm, how I like it. Yesterday I bought a Nintendo Wii. I still play the same games I played when I was a child, and I bought a Nintendo Wii, and of course I installed Homebrew, played around with Homebrew software. I cannot help myself. I spent like 7 hours, instead of sleeping, as I should have been, I was playing around with the Wii, and not even playing games. I was playing the meta game of installing Homebrew, and the Nintendo servers are down. You can no longer update, so I had to find a Homebrew installer, an exploit that would work on older versions of the operating system, because the Wii I bought for whatever reason was in an older version. Lots of fun stuff with the Homebrew community. I think it's mostly dead these days. There are a few people working in Homebrew software, but it's mostly dead because the console is so old. But still, such a warm, fuzzy feeling revisiting this. Yeah, Homebrew is awesome. Let's see if the plugin delay compensation is working. Right now, the plugins are not declaring a latency, and I can say that because this says 0. When I change the Lookahead, it starts to declare latency. That makes sense. If I have 100 milliseconds worth of latency, I expect to have my sample rate, 48,000, divided by 10. So that's 4,800. Yeah, that seems right. That's what I expect to see, 100 milliseconds. Yeah, here it is. Good to go. I guess one of the things that I enjoy about the Homebrew community is that they are trying to extend the capabilities of an old piece of hardware. I like it so much. It's like unlocking the full potential of the thing, or even creating something out of nothing. I really like that. Right, so now let's actually use this Lookahead. Oh, and by the way, this implementation already fixes something that was a bug in the old implementation. It was reporting one sample more than it should have as plugin delay compensation, and then it was taking a whole buffer of samples as latency. Really silly stuff. All right, let's get to here. In the sample block, what we want to do is to compute this just the same. We are going to detect the RMS and compute the attenuation, all of that, just the same. Audio is coming in, we are detecting its RMS, but we want to delay the playback. In order to be able to delay the playback, I will need to store older samples to play them back later. So I will need to declare a circular buffer, and I will need to have one per channel. Let's revisit our library to learn how to use circular buffers. I will need to create one of these per channel. So I also want to look at, I guess, just memory. And now the question, what do I call this? I guess I'll call it the Lookahead buffers. Loop over the number of channels. And for each channel, the Lookahead buffer's imposition channel is a new one of those fellows, where the length needs to be the maximum length of the Lookahead parameter. So let's have Lookahead ms maximum. That's 1000. And the length will be that. Now we need to be pessimistic and allocate as much memory as we think we are ever going to need, because we don't want to be allocating memory in the middle of processing audio. We want to do all of that in the init section when the plugin is loaded for the first time. Okay, all of this looks good to me. Then instead of playing back this, we'll not play this back. No, sir. We will get stuff, old stuff, we'll get old samples from the circular buffer. Where the offset is minus, what is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is the variable? It is that. And then at the end of the block, we need to remember to write samples into the circular buffer so that they are available for us later. And that's what we are going to do now. Guess I might as well just do it here. I could have a separate loop to do this, and I think it would read better because each loop would have a single responsibility, but looping is expensive in terms of CPU, so I'm going to try to save some CPU by doing it like this. Everything that can be done in a single loop will be done in a single loop. Smarter compilers would probably be able to detect that the two loops could be collapsed, but JSFX is not terribly optimized. Not in that sense anyway. All right, and what is the value? Well, that is the sample for this channel. Of course, I cannot write to this and then try to read it. I will have to read it first. And I couldn't just reorder the two lines because this also uses the Lookahead buffer and try to get something out of there. So that's the only way to go, with a temporary variable here, an auxiliary variable. Okay, but there is a problem. If the Lookahead in samples is exactly 0, this is not going to work because we don't have -0 in the circular buffer. So I will need to have a conditional here. I think that's the only way to do it. Perhaps there is a smarter way, but it doesn't come to me at the moment. Give me a moment, I need to review this carefully. Let's see all the lines I changed. That looks okay. And that looks okay. This looks fine. And this looks okay. Now, here, we don't want to simply do that. We want to get a hold of this buffer. And I'm using this auxiliary variable just so I don't go into the memory multiple times. Another small optimization. Then I remember this sample that just came in. Then I will write my output, which is this formula I'm going to get to in a moment. And then I push the sample that just came in into the circular buffer for next time. Looks good. What is going on in this formula? I'm multiplying by attenuation, that much is right. But what am I attenuating? If the sample's lookahead is 0, the sample that just came in. Otherwise, get from the circular buffer this much. Well, that seems okay, but I'm paying the price of pushing every time. This is not a free operation, so I could just detect that I am not using lookahead and skip this as well. Let's do exactly that. We can skip this, we can skip a lot actually. Yeah, let's get a hold of what was here before. Drop it there. And then have the conditional. If the lookahead in samples is 0, just go ahead and do this. You are done. Otherwise, you will have some work to do. And I know that there will be an issue, so I'll take note here. By reading this, you will of course understand what's going on, but we'll get to this in a moment. Let's first see if this works. If the lookahead in samples is 0, then do the thing that we were doing before. Otherwise, do the thing that we just wrote, except that I don't need to check for this again. I can write it like this. Okay. This stands a chance of working. Unless you already saw something that is wrong and you are going to tell me now. Cool, I'm switching to buying, I'm thinking of buying a Switch, not switching to buying a Think. You are thinking of buying a Nintendo Switch just to be able to play Return to Monkey Island? I don't think I know this game. Was it released in the last 10 years? If so, I probably don't know about it. Was Portal released in the last 10 years? Because I played Portal. I played Celeste. Celeste is a great game. Probably won't be able to hack the Switch though, I guess. Anywho, yeah, I guess there is this sweet spot, like the Nintendo 64. There's nothing interesting to hack there. Because it's not powerful enough. Then there are the newer consoles that are pretty much computers, so whatever, what are you gonna do? And they are mostly locked down anyway, and DRM and whatnot. But there is this sweet spot, like the old iPods, the old iPhones, the Wii. It's just hackable enough. I can completely understand why retro gamers still linger to this area, because it was one of the best. Also nostalgia, but anyway, If you buy an earlier version of the switch, there is a boot room exploit that allows running homebrew software. Interesting, I didn't know that actually. Kind on topic, I was playing with Gmem and it would seem you can even share it with other project tabs. Cool, but also weird. Yeah, I was thinking about that the global memory needs to be specific to the project. If it's not, it could mess things up. For instance, the Automixer would be auto-mixing tracks across project tabs. That's catastrophic. I don't want that behavior. So yeah, thanks for letting me know, because I was thinking about this, but I didn't check it myself. But I'll experiment with this then. Actually, one of my friends mentioned that they are having Automixer issues because it shared memory with project tabs. Yeah, this was the original JSFX Automixer, not mine, because my original Automixer, the one that I'm rewriting now, used REAPER to do the routing. It didn't use global memory at all. And the one that I'm implementing now is more in line with the JSFX Automixer, the original one, at least in this sense of how communication between plugin instances happen. Well, one thing that the original Automixer does not have, and that we will have in a couple minutes, is the notion of groups. So at least if you have multiple tabs open, you could put the Automixer instances in different groups, and that will help. But you still need to be aware, and depending on which projects you open together, it could be an issue. So, yikes. I don't think you would want instances of the Automixer across project tabs to share memory. I agree. I think that the project should be the boundary. I understand that things like REAPER scripts benefit from syncing across project tabs, but JSFX don't. And the issue is that REAPER scripts and JSFX access the same chunk of global memory. You can even communicate between scripts and plugins using this technology. And I was thinking of actually exploiting this. Let me take note of this idea, because I thought about it and I didn't write it down. Send MIDI and or switch scenes in OBS. It's a future idea, so I'm just going to summarize it here. Using the global memory, you can communicate from JSFX into REA scripts written in Lua. In REA scripts, you can communicate with the command line. And on the command line, you can control OBS. There is an old video in my channel in which I explain this plugin I developed that allows you to record video in REAPER. It's really recording video in OBS, but it's syncing everything seamlessly. And it's using exactly this approach. A REA script calling to the command line, controlling OBS. Now what's cool is that, and I only learned about this later, is that JSFX can communicate with REA scripts. So I could have an Automixer running in REAPER that controls scene switches in OBS. So suppose you're broadcasting live, you're using the Automixer. The Automixer could tell OBS to switch to the camera of the person who is speaking. Isn't that cool? I think that that's super nice. Completely possible. I think, I don't know, I haven't really implemented it yet, but we will together. I don't think you would want instances, yeah. It's the same with MTS ESP that also works across project tabs. I remember this name, but I don't remember this name. What's that? Oh, I need to learn more about this. Would you want MTS as ESP to share tuning information across project tabs. What if the two tabs are in different keys? You would not want that, but it cannot be easily prevented. Well, worst comes to worst, I can tell people to not open multiple project tabs with the Automixer running at the same time. Just open different REAPER instances. Like I have my REAPER instance to run my stream. I have another REAPER instance to test things out. Just do that. So my friend told me this: if you had Automixer plugins in project tab 2, for example, and rendered out a different project in tab 1, the results would not work with the shared memory between tabs. Well, it will not work in the sense that both projects have Automixer instances, and the Automixer instances in project tab 2 would take in account these Automixer instances, so it would probably be quieter, I think, quieter than it should be. Is that the issue, or is it something else? Because the issue should be that just the Automixer instances are thrown off by the other tracks that are inactive, so the attenuation is all over the place. But it shouldn't like completely break, I don't think. He's not a developer, just a very frequent user of the Automixer. He uses Leandro's original Automixer currently, which obviously doesn't suffer from that issue. True enough. On the topic of scene switching with OBS, I think you could probably cut out the command line middleman when controlling OBS if you use Lua sockets to control OBS directly. True. I didn't know about Lua sockets back then when I developed this command line thing. Now I know it exists, but I know very little about it. But as far as I understand, to be able to open a socket, you need a native extension written in C or C++, and Lua just communicates with that, because plain Lua just doesn't have the facilities to talk over the network. Now, I think that there are some Lua sockets bindings already in the repack default repositories that everyone installs. If that's the case, then good. If it's not the case, then I am not sure I would like to distribute Lua sockets with my own rear script. So if you know more about this, I would love to learn. Yeah. All right, let's power through this. Is this working? We have to test it. Let's add one Automixer instance here. And let's open my microphone to this Automixer instance. And it's not reporting a latency, and it's not introducing any latency. We can see the 2 meters bouncing up and down together. Track number 2, tone generator at about this level. And Automixer. And there it is. Now the two Automixers are interacting. You can see that this is bouncing up and down as I speak to make space for my voice. And this is attenuated because of the other Automixer instance. The two are competing. Great. No Lookahead so far. When I introduce Lookahead, we will see this saying that there are some samples of latency. We'll see this increasing. And we do. And let's make this half a second, like so. And now, well, it's not working. I can tell you that much. So I see a couple issues. Well, first of all, it is, oh, interesting. It is delaying stuff. But it's only outputting stuff to the left channel, and it's not bouncing up and down anymore as it should. So there is a problem. First, let's try to reason why are we only outputting to the left channel. Well, this part is the same as that one, and that one is working. So it seems to me like getting stuff out of the circular buffer is not working right. So maybe the circular buffer here is wrong. This will be a positive number, so this minus sign makes sense. Yeah, that's how you use this, so that's correct. But it seems to me like this is 0. Weird. Let's commit what we have, because we are going to start putting some debug code here and there. First, let's check that the allocation is correct. For that, I will inspect some variables. I will want to inspect this. I expect this to be a relatively large number. And it is. Oh, here's something that always helps. I can look at the number of references to variables, because if there are variables with a single reference, it's usually a bad sign. For instance, channels over here. Oh, there you go. That's an issue, isn't it? There's a typo in here. Channel. Let's give that a try. And now there are no variables that we used in our plugin. These are library variables, okay? Starting with an underscore, library variables. If there is a single reference to them, whatever. But in our variables here, it's usually not the case that we want to have a single reference to a variable, because you're defining it and you're never using it, or you're using it but you are never updating it. So that's usually a problem. So here is a rule of thumb. Look at the number of references. If there is a single reference to a variable, something is off. Anyway, with that, we are allocating the number of lookahead buffers correctly. So yeah, it started working already. It's bouncing up and down again. But I will drop in new instances, because you never know. You cannot trust JSFX like that. Okay, this is working. If I introduce lookahead, it starts introducing latency, which is the correct thing. Is it the correct thing though? Shouldn't these meters be still in sync because of the plugin delay compensation? Let's see another plugin that has any kind of thing like this, because I forget. What's another plugin that does something like this? Is there some kind of JSFX compressor with lookahead? Yes, there is the tight compressor. That one has lookahead, doesn't it? Threshold, ratio, attack, delay, decay, not delay, decay, knee, makeup, pre, post, scrolls, topology, dry wet, oversampling. Well, oversampling is going to introduce latency. There you go, 32 samples of latency. Yeah, the latency is in both and they are kept in sync. That's odd. Well, the latency was in both because the Automixer was introducing latency. Let me bypass this for a moment. Let's try the limiter. Smooth limiter also has some latency. And if I increase the attack, the latency will go up. But the two meters are kept in sync because of plugin delay compensation. So my plugin really is misbehaving, is it not? I think it is. Why though? We have declared the latency and REAPER has registered the latency. Is this latency not long enough for me to notice? It's just 100 milliseconds, while mine is 500, almost 600. I cannot go even further up on this one, but I can always force that to happen. No, not easily. God damn it. I think there is something odd with this situation. And also the other plugin is not going up and down as it should. So there is that. Is it going up and down now? Oh, it is. It is going up and down now. Oh. But hang on. There is no latency now? Oh, I see. Yeah, this is not something we have considered before. In our strategy to sync the so-called global parameters, we haven't considered the case where you change a parameter and then you load a plugin in a different track. So check this out. I load the plugin on a new track and that guy becomes 0 because this new plugin takes precedence. It's as if you have moved the slider here. To fix that, on the init section, we will have to sync these things. So everywhere where I see global here, I will want to do the opposite here. That should fix that. Let's try. No, they are all gonna go to 0, aren't they? They all went to 0 because these variables are 0 to begin with. God damn it. Well, if 0 is an allowed value, I am in trouble. If 0 was not an allowed value, I could just check for 0. Well, here is another approach. I feel like I should commit this fix, because this fix I want to keep. Here is another approach. On the slider block, I can check stuff like first time, or not first time. I will do the opposite. Should sync global parameters. Should write to global parameters, global sliders. There we go. If should write to global sliders, then a bunch of things, and should write to global sliders equals to 1. That just equals to true. I'm using a library so that I don't have to deal with numbers being interpreted as booleans, and I can deal with just booleans. Anyway, the point is that we should only do some of these shenanigans, or perhaps all of these shenanigans, if this is true. So the first time around, we'll not do the shenanigans. The second time around onwards, we will. So that when the plugin loads, it doesn't overwrite the global stuff with the defaults again. Okay. What do I want to do when writing to global sliders? This actually can be on the init section. I'll put it right here below this other special variable. And now this section looks exactly the same as this section, as it should. I'm not sure this is the most elegant way, but hey, it probably works. Let's give this a try. Oops, I deleted my tone generator. Let's give this a try. Okay, now it doesn't start with a bunch of zeros, and that's great news. Let's put all of these guys to the top and add, oh, the master auto-muted, something was loud. And then put another one there, and it did not work. It reset the whole damn thing. Crap. Future me will take care of this because I only have 5 minutes and I have to deal with groups. Let's do that. And the changes I made here, I think they are good, so I'm gonna keep them. I think that this is supposed to work. If it's not, well, it is not, I have tested. It is not, but I don't know. It feels like this is going in the right direction. And also the Lookahead is not working, is it? So there is that. The Lookahead is introducing this weird latency. But at least it is working in the sense that if I bring this up, it's bouncing up and down as it should. And it's bouncing up and down with a delay as it should. So I think that the logic of the Lookahead is working. But there may be something weird with the plugin delay compensation or something else that I am missing. Don't you have a counter for how many instances of the Automixer is? If so, can't you check that if that's 0, so you can use default values of sliders? Yeah, good point. I don't have a counter for real. What I have is I can loop over the global memory and find out how many instances there are. But the problem is not with the default values of sliders. Oh, I guess you are probably saying if I have this on the init section. That's a good point, actually. If I have this stuff, let's explore this real quick because it may be the key to the issue. So if I just do this, it will set this to 0 to begin with, because this will be 0. But we do have other places where we are using the global memory, and we can... Oh, we do have a counter. We do have a counter for real. So if the track current is 0, just don't do this. And that subsumes that. Is this what you mean? I think that this is what you mean. And if so, I think that this is absolutely correct. I think so anyway, let's see. Oops, nope, wrong Reaper instance. change some sliders and load a new instance. And yay! You are a very smart person. And then they are the defaults again. But, yep, this is flawless. Thank you very much. You fixed my problem. And it's a much more elegant solution anyway. Well, in one sense, I don't love how I have to now remember to change stuff in 3 places. 1, 2, and 3. So I don't love how I have to do that, but it's an elegant solution. So thank you very much for the suggestion. Okay, that's exactly what I mean. Excellent. Oh, this will suffer from the project tab bug or project tab shared memory. True enough. So be it. Open different REAPER instances. Let's do groups. We only have 30 seconds. This is a property of the instance. So it goes down here. And I will put this as the first property of the instance. And we will have, how many groups do you want to have? Because really it's just a number. We can have 1,000 groups if you wanted. It's just that I want to have things make sense. Let's have 32 groups. And let's start counting with 1, because we're talking about user interface here. "32 groups should be enough for everyone to be happy." Right. So now we have this new slider. It's a local slider. We don't have to deal with synchronizing global sliders here. Awesome. Which means I can dive straight into the place where we define a data structure for this instance into the global memory. That's what represents stuff into the global memory. We have updated at, we have RMS, we have the track. What is this track again? Oh, that's the number of elements in the data structure. That's what that is. And now we have one more element, which is the group. And I guess this is such an important element that it will be element 0. Now, we want on the slider section, if you change the group, I want to write that to global memory. And that's how you do it. Go into the track in global memory, into the group part of it, and write the group. But I don't need to worry about multiple instances trying to write to this, because this memory is allocated to this instance. There is no race condition going on. So simply having this on the slider section suffices. Next, we are looking at the place where we compute RMS. And I will need this variable, so I'll just go ahead and get it. So the sum of all RMSs and then there is this. Yeah, it looks good. So the sum of all RMSs is only computed for tracks that have been updated recently, and tracks that belong in the same group. That's right. It's as easy as that. There you have it. I think we implemented groups. Let's give this a try. Okay, so now I have two versions of my voice. One of them is in this other group. And what I expect to see is the sine wave is in the same group as this guy. So I expect to see some attenuation here, but this instance is in a different group, so I don't see attenuation there. Oh, and their look-ahead strength and blah, blah, blah could be associated with a group. It could. Could it? Couldn't it? I will see. I will see. It's not the biggest deal to implement this, but it's annoying, and I don't know how useful the so-called global sliders could actually be. I will not say actually. That's such a... Well, actually, global sliders could be different, or could be per group sliders. I think that that could be useful. I actually think that that could be useful, which annoys me. Right, and if I introduce my microphone into the group again, then both are attenuated. If I use a different group, it's no longer attenuated. So I think that I implemented this right. Let's review the changes real quick. Yep, looks okay. Is there a project tab index? Could you use that in the calculation of the index that you are using for global memory so that you can keep separate memory spaces? Perhaps, but I don't think so. Come on, where is my JSFX documentation? I think I closed it. If it exists, it's probably under special variables, and perhaps there are special variables about project tabs. I would also like to see special variables about track number. It would be lovely if I could tell in which track number I am, because then I could order. Looking further into the future, I would love to have some graphs of the attenuation over time, and I would love if I could draw all of them for all tracks. But then I need to order them somehow. So I need to know which tracks are in each order, and this is information that I'm sure VSTs can get, but I don't know if JSFX can. It's unavailable. I don't think that this information is available to us in JSFX. Yikes. Open different REAPER instances. Stop messing with tabs. Tabs are evil. You want different different REAPER instances. Yeah, it would be lovely to have that big view, pretty similar to what I actually have on the existing Automixer. So if I have a bunch of microphones like this, it would be awesome if I could do this kind of view. And I can, in this case, because I am using the REAPER routing thing, so I have access to all of this. But now that I'm not using that anymore, and it will need to work in every DAW, I will not have access to all the tracks like this with their numbers. And in JSFX, it's just impossible to solve. So I guess my tentative workaround will be, I will have some sort of interface that you can put in the mixer control panel and in the track control panel. So that's a REAPER specific thing, which I'm trying to avoid in this plugin, but it's a REAPER specific thing to overcome a limitation of JSFX not having track information available to it. And that's something that I can do in the VST version. So in the VST, I would draw something that is similar to what you would see here on the mixer control panel. I think that's a good workaround. Oh, but ReaScripts share this global memory, and there is a ReaScript API to get track number. True, but then I would need to ask people to not only instantiate my plugin, but also run a ReaScript to inform my plugin of stuff. It's doable, but it's kind of annoying. I think that my proposed solution of using the MCP is a bit better than asking people to put stuff to run scripts. Again, REAPER specific, true, but in VSTs I do have a way of getting a hold of the track, I think. I think I saw some plugin that does this. I don't know for sure. I will have to check. Anyway, that's that. I implemented both things I promised I would. Lookahead and I forget the other one. That's how I am. And I even fixed some global slider stuff. That was interesting. Yeah. Lookahead and groups. That's what we implemented. Lookahead and groups. And hey, Corey, I think will appreciate this because instance grouping was in his roadmap. All right. So tomorrow I'm not streaming. I will be back on Friday probably. So enjoy the rest of your week. I see you on Friday. Thank you, Ben, for joining me and for fixing my issue with the global syncing thing. Thank you to Tail and Bo for joining me here as well. I see you on Friday. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.